Ladies and gentlemen, Big Hairy News.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Chewie.
Kia ora, Pat. How's things?
Not bad. How are you, man? What's going on?
It's a busy old time.
It is.
the
It's real
moment.
busy. It's real super busy. Super busy everywhere. We're in December. Can you frickin' believe it? We're in December. It is December. Santa is warming up his reindeer. I don't know if that's how the reindeer travel, but they are being warmed, stretched. They're being stretched and they're doing laps, getting ready to run. Yeah, crazy times.
For me,
Yeah.
it is the impending shut-off of the 3G network
Oh, when does that happen?
sometime this month. We don't know exactly when, but there's been like over a year's worth of text messages and emails going out to everybody basically that has a phone more than 7 years old, and everybody's left it till now to do something about it. So it's a lot of fun. I'm seeing
So
a
it's
lot
a
of
lot-
very old phones with old customers having them.
It's
Ugh.
like a special little secret that one day is going to be opened, and then all the people who haven't sorted it out are going to be in hell. Is that about right?
Yes. Yeah.
3G, now educate me, that's just the data though, eh? So people won't be able to get data, or does that impact the cellular availability as well?
So it is a full shut off of the 3G network.
Yeah.
So not only data but voice
Okay.
goes over 3G, because we turned off 2G like 8 years ago
Yeah.
or something like that. So if you have older relatives with very old phones, they need to have a setting called voice over LTE or VoLTE to be able to work. Chances are every network out there has been messaging people, because it's not just one particular company; it's all of us.
Look
it's
at
to
you,
free
eh?
up space in the electromagnetic spectrum.
We have a guest. We have two guests actually on to start up the show. But I think what we will just do, we're not going to go through the new patrons now. We will definitely do it in the next day or so. So thank you if you've joined up. But what did we say, Chewie? How many by Christmas? What were we aiming for? Active. We're aiming for 500 patrons. What are we at? We're at 490. I believe we were at 492. So we've gone back on.
That's the wrong way.
Huge thanks to all of our patrons. A huge thanks for being involved. We will give you guys who are new on board a shout out in the next day or so, probably tomorrow. But when we have an interview, we want to kind of get to them more quickly. Although from the way we're chatting right now, you wouldn't think that. And we will rip into that. And huge thanks to you guys for being a part of what we do. If you want to be a part of what we do, the Patreon's going along the bottom of the screen. Just before we bring Aaron in, I'm super busy at the moment. BHN made an investment last week. I sent Chewie a picture of the investment. I'll put it up on Patreon at some stage. We got ourselves a new camera, specifically for doing outside broadcast and stuff away from our mother's basements that we keep getting told about. And it will probably, and I say probably because if it's really, really jam-packed, I'm not quite sure if there's space for it, but it will probably be used at our live event this Friday night in Dunedin at Adju, 333 George Street. We have a BHN whānau, a podcast listener and watcher meetup at 5:30 if you're interested. And then after that at 6:30, we have an open public meeting this week. Did I say this week?
It's this week.
Yeah, this week. We have an open public meeting. Our New Zealand health system is in dire emergency. We are hosting Sophie Barker, who is Dunedin's mayor, and she's a big part of the Save Our Hospital campaign. Dr. Carrie Payanda, award-winning podcaster and emergency department consultant. Craig Rennie, award-winning broadcaster and the chief economist at the CTU, going to be speaking. So a bunch of people are going to be there. There it is there, 333 George Street, Dunedin. Our intention is to film it and then we'll put it up at some stage for all you poor people who can't be in Dunedin this weekend. But if you are in Dunedin and you want to be a part of the podcast meetup, it's at 5:30. We're not going to advertise that publicly because, everyone would then turn up, wouldn't they, Chewie? But we are obviously, as is the New Zealand Nurses Union or New Zealand Nurses Organisation and others, advertising the actual public meeting publicly, which is what we're doing right now. So, be involved. And hopefully if you're in and around. So far I've heard, the furthest person I've heard coming is Christchurch, other than, of course, Gary's coming from Whangarei. Doesn't really count. But the furthest I've heard so far is someone travelling from Christchurch to come and be a part of what we're doing, which is pretty cool. Wow. Maybe we should do like we'll probably have a little bit of merch there to sell and some special live event prices. Maybe we should do a little prize for the person who travelled from the furthest. Maybe we will. We'll see. And Gary is not allowed to be a part of that because he's whangarei. That doesn't really count. Doesn't really work. Hopefully we'll see some of you guys on Friday night. And if we don't, well, we'll just note it down in our book and we'll remember for next time, won't we, Chewie? We'll remember. We have got Tania Waikato coming up around about 9:30. I don't know if they've released their numbers yet. Remember, we made a pledge to Tania that if they get to 1,500 schools, we would send David Seymour a cookie, thanks to the guys from Mustache and Milk, with his words on it when he said it's only 200 schools, to give him the availability to eat his own words. Is it at 1,500? I don't know if Tanya's put those numbers out yet, but we'll have to wait and see. She'll be up very, very shortly. Also later on tonight, and this, I'm being genuine when I say this, Luxon pulled a gangster move in the weekend, like a genuine gangster move. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to have to get you to hang around till we get to it. But when you hear what he did, at least I should say, Chewie, the rumors are, if what he did for the reason that people believe, it's a gangster move. If what he did wasn't, well, then it's just Luxon being Luxon. But we'll get to that as we go through the show. Let's start off this evening's show with a big welcome to Aaron Hendry. Aaron Hendry is from Kickback. Kickback has just released the State of Our Streets, research, and we want to talk to a bit with Aaron tonight. Good evening, Aaron. Welcome to the show.
Kia ora. Thanks for having me.
Kia ora. How are you, man? Are you freaking out that it's December? Freaking out it's December a bit.
Yeah, look, I can't even believe it's December. This Christmas is coming at us like a train, right?
For people who don't know, talk to us about Kickback. What is Kickback? What it's about? Who runs it? What is the purpose of Kickback?
Yeah, look, Kickback's a youth development organisation that's focused on responding to youth homelessness. We started, my wife and I kind of kicked us off. It kind of came out of a lot of conversations we were having with a lot of our rangatahi, that there were just some real key gaps for young people experiencing homelessness, and there needed to be a lot more work done. And so, look, we got kind of three key aims, which is one, innovating. Where are there gaps in the system? How do we innovate for change and try to do something different for our rangatahi and our tamariki? We do a lot of work around education, trying to ensure that there's a wider understanding around youth homelessness within our communities and supporting other community organisations to serve them better. And then advocacy, doing this kind of work where we're actually educating the wider public and putting pressure on the system to try and create some change.
Now, we got a press release over the weekend where you guys were saying we're doing the State of the Streets. I believe it's the first one. So tell us about what State of the Streets is and why Kickback is doing it.
Yeah, cool. So basically the State of the Street, it's a report that pulls the data from our services over the last year. So we've got two key services. One, the Front Door, which is a crisis early interventions response service for young people right in the city centre. If you think of kind of what the mission does, or what LifeWise does for our adult whānau in the city centre, it's that sort of space, a space that young people can go get immediate access to support, and we start to kind of work out what's going on for them and help them kind of navigate the system. And then we've got another service called the Safety Net, which is a host home network. We work with a group called Mr Community Trust on that, and it's about providing immediate access to shelter with host whānau in the community. So look, the State of the Street is about pulling together that data and trying to give voice to the experiences of our young people for for a very long time, there has been, I guess, an idea that youth homelessness doesn't really exist. When we kind of first, when I at least started kind of this mahi almost 10 years ago, advocating, we'd be speaking to, people who made decisions, politicians, and, people with big jobs, and they just didn't believe that young people really were experiencing homelessness. And that belief still exists. They'd often say, well, show us the figures, show us the data. Well, one of the issues is that in this country, we have done a very poor job of counting our young people's experiences and validating them. And so there's real poor data on young people's experience of housing insecurity. And, that's been a real flaw and a failure of our state to really care for our kids and actually understand that experience. So there's been some real issues we've come across around actually getting movement on this issue for a long time, because people say, well, where's the data? So what Kickback's really committed to doing is giving voice to the experience of our young people and making sure that their data can be used to fight for them. And so the State of the Street is, I guess, the first report that is doing that. We plan to deliver this every year and start to build a body of data and real information around the experiences of young people. And we'll be able to see in the year to come how that's changed, if it's changed, and really give some evidence to what our young people are experiencing.
You said you've been doing this for like 10 years, which means you've covered both, a left-leaning government and a right-leaning government, far right-leaning government. It sounds like what you're saying is no one has really provided the answer yet. Do you notice a difference working and trying to work under a system controlled by the Luxon versus trying to work under a system controlled by the Jacinda? Like, is there a tangible difference, or is it all much of a muchness and there's still these kids needing help and it doesn't really matter who's in charge?
Yeah. It's a bit of both, right? Like, to be fair, there's no government that's really done enough on this. We campaigned really hard under the last Labour government, and we just did not see the action that was needed, or the urgency. And, we had the same situation, very similar situations, where young people were going into work and income, being denied support and being, turfed out onto the street. Now that happens to a much larger group of people, but it was happening to young people under the Labour government. There was a lot of work done to try to get some change and shift under the last government, specifically with the Greens, and Marama Davidson. We have to acknowledge her. She really fought for our young people and pushed really hard to see some sort of change. And we started to see some real small wins. We saw $20 million, about 60 mil, I think, all go to kind of funding youth housing services. We started to see some short changes around the emergency housing system. And, for a time before 2020, if you're a young person needing access to emergency accommodation, you didn't get it. So there was a lot of advocacy that came from the community to kind of push that forward. And it was after that first lockdown where basically young people were completely excluded from the government's, crisis response. And we had kids sleeping in graveyards and in cars and in the bush. And they all came out after that first 2020 lockdown. But we pushed really hard to see some shift and change after that. So there started to be some small steps forward. Under this government, I would say almost all the kind of key gains that we had feel like they've been torn apart. And we've seen some real significant decisions that have escalated the crisis. So I remember having an interview very early on around some of the changes we were seeing and being asked, was this going to make things worse? And my thoughts were, how could it be worse than it is right now? Because it was bad, and I don't want to sugarcoat that. But it has gotten worse, right? And some of those like policy changes we can point to, and you probably talked about some of them or aware of them. The emergency accommodation change was huge, right? So previously, we were able to get young people to emergency accommodation fairly swiftly, pretty quickly. We still had this issue with working income, where it doesn't understand our young people and they get discriminated against fairly regularly. But we had escalation points within working income. We could escalate that and we'd get them into support. Literally the week after the decision, we had young people being left on the street who just could not get that support. So kainga order, the eviction policies that have been put in place, we've seen more kids sleeping on the street as a result of that policy. Their whole whānau being turfed out, and then the kids being on the street also. The welfare system has become a lot more toxic and a lot more dangerous. Really hard for young people specifically. When they're getting sanctioned, it becomes a real barrier to them being able to get shelter, and often getting those sanctions off without an advocate or support is really, really hard for them. And then just in general, look, there's a lot of funding that's just been pulled out of the community, and that means there's less capacity to actually respond to our kids and support them.
Yeah. it sounds like what you're saying is something we've heard from many people working sort of with vulnerable groups, is that no government's really solved it, but this government is rocket fuel. That's what we've heard time and time and time again. Chewie, sir, jump in.
Oh, I'm just mulling over the full court press that you described. The benefit sanctions, the being probably a lot of these kids I would assume are having trouble at school as well, being excluded from school, and not having emergency housing available, and then the thing that we have set up to be a safety net in people's lives doesn't want to talk to them because they don't fit in the standard mold of who they would help, is an incredibly depressing thing to sort of roll around in my head. I did see a comment earlier that even just the phrase youth homelessness shouldn't exist in a country that is supposedly part of the I hate this term, first world, and that it's getting worse. That's horrible to hear.
No, and for a long time, sorry, go.
Oh, I was just going to say a couple of months ago there was a piece that came out that was I guess quite a long-term study that and I'm not even sure if it was from here or from overseas, but it was the single most effective thing that we could do for someone in that situation is provide stable housing. Like that's block number one of putting someone back on the right track. Would you agree with that? Oh, have we lost Aaron?
You with us, Aaron? Are you still with us, Aaron? Have we lost you?
No, let's come back.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah. Yep.
Did you hear Chewie's question, or Chewie? Do you want to? Yeah, we can hear you. Do you want to repeat your question, or Chewie?
I was just saying I saw a study earlier in the year that secure and stable housing is probably the single most effective thing that we could do for someone, for a young person in this sort of situation that you're describing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Look. Fundamentally, a lot of the big conversations that we're having about young people in this country come down to housing insecurity and homelessness. If we talk about education or crime or healthcare or mental health, at the most extreme edge, where our young people are suffering the most and where they're turning up in those statistics that everyone's concerned about. Often, when you go deeper and you understand what's actually happening with them, it's housing insecurity, it's homelessness. And so, if we can deal with housing instability in this country and homelessness, and for our rangatahi, for our tamariki, we will see change across all of the things that our government and our wider, people within New Zealand are concerned about, right? So, stability, safety. How can you think about doing well at school? How can you think about even going to school? How can you think about, getting a job and, getting off the benefit if that's what you're trying to do? How can you think about any of that stuff when every day you're unsafe? You don't know where you're going to sleep tonight. We don't know what, whether, you're going to be here tomorrow, what you're going to eat. Those questions are going through their heads all the time. And I remember talking to one of our young people recently, and they shared about how, look, it is hard work. It's almost a full-time job experiencing homelessness. Whole life is kind of focused on that survival of what next? Where do I go? How do I live? How do I eat? Where am I going to stay tonight? Are those around me safe? Am I going to be safe? Like, we can't even begin to have a conversation around supporting young people into work or, education or fixing our mental health, numbers or anything until we have a serious conversation around ending youth and child homelessness in this country.
We don't get that discussion though from any government, but especially this one. When Luxon wants to talk about youth unemployment, we get painted this picture of someone that's just sitting at home, not looking for a job, playing PlayStation, and that's the discussion that we have. It's remarkable. There's no concept. We don't want to talk about youth homelessness. We don't want to talk about these dark, like quite confronting sort of things that we live in a society that lets this happen. But we've all got an idea that a teenager likes to play PlayStation, so that's what's driving people on benefits, right? That's the life that we've got to save them from. how do we promote that sort of conversation with people that maybe don't have the empathy for these kids that are on the streets?
Yeah. Look, I mean, part of this is why we're trying to build this data to really show the evidence of what's going on for our young people. But we really need to ask ourselves, what would we want for our own kids? What would we want for our children? And what do we think of our own kids? I know that my children are motivated. They have dreams, they have aspirations, they have things that they want to do with their lives. Why do we think it's any different for the awa rangatahi that are out there that are turning up in these statistics? Every young person that I met, look, they want a job. They've got dreams, they've got passions, that there are things that they hope for. What they lack is opportunity and stability and safety. And if we can focus on that, if we can focus on providing that stability and caring for our kids, then everything else is going to look after itself.
Do we have like ironclad numbers now? Like what percentage of teenagers are homeless? Because I know that the article originally on RNZ that I picked up on Stuff, you talk about the numbers sleeping rough are much larger than we first anticipated. So there is a number. How do we look at that tangibly? How can you educate us to what that actually looks like? 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 6? Do we know?
Yeah, look, the numbers are hard. The numbers are hard because there has not been, enough work done on the data. And Orangatapiri, for example, they don't know how many of their kids are experiencing homelessness right now. What we do know is in the census data, about 50% of all those who experience homelessness are young people and children. Now, we also know that that's inaccurate. It'll probably be much larger because the kids that we're seeing coming in off the street, they're not turning up in that data. They're not getting counted. They're not with their whānau all the time. They're not in the schools. They're not in the places where they're going to get picked up. And this is why we call youth homelessness often hidden homelessness, because they don't turn up in the data. What we're trying to do is
Hopefully we'll get Aaron back in a second. Maybe read a quick chat whilst we do that. We'll see if Aaron pops back in. Joe says going back to the 18th century is the way forward, apparently. JC and the Pigeon Cats says, and every article about homelessness has that commentator saying it's a choice, FFS. Such a sad mentality. And Peter says the coalition of chaos finally no constituency for compassion. Sorry, Chewie.
Oh, the people saying that it's a choice. Give it a real choice. Like, turn around and go, do you want to live on the streets or do you want to live in a house?
Yeah.
Like, who's making that choice? I guarantee you these kids aren't.
I was watching CNN the other day and they were talking about, being some topic around being poor. And one of the commenters said, people are sick and fucking tired of men wearing Rolexes telling us about what poor people should do. And I was just like, oh, how true that is. And I wonder if the same could be said in this kind of conversation. The Louise Upstons of the world, the I own 7 rental properties of the world, these people telling us about homelessness and the impact of it. Then we've got Aaron back. We got you back there, Aaron?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
I'm not sure what happened.
I can't remember exactly.
We were talking about data. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you one more question then before we wrap up. The government's announced this new legislation around 18 and 19-year-olds having to be under their parents. What is that going to do when it comes to homelessness and poverty amongst teenagers?
Yeah, look, we're really, really concerned about that. That is potentially going to put a lot of young people at a lot greater risk. There's a group of young people that will just not be able to return home. And there'll be a range of reasons. When they first came out, we spoke to our young people about this, and there was huge concern around our Rangatira community. And I spoke specifically to young people that said, look, we feel like the Prime Minister's bullying us. Like, why are they doing this? For some of those young people, their whānau just financially can't afford it. I spoke to one young man, his whānau are up north. They are not living together because they just cannot afford to, and they're struggling. They've got a good relationship, but it's just not going to work. There's no way in the world he can go back up there. He's going to be without an income. He is trying really hard to find work, and probably what will happen is if he can't build the support network around him, he's at risk of being on the streets, right? For others, there's going to be a real perverse incentive where some young people who need to leave home because they're not safe may be afraid to do so and stay in abusive or dangerous environments because they cannot get access to resources. Others will just flee and end up in more dangerous situations because they can't pay rent and they can't look after themselves and they'll be exploited. And others will end up on the street. It'll have a huge impact on young people's mental health and their overall well-being. It's going to create a greater divide between those who are already struggling and those who probably didn't need it anyway. But that group that we're most concerned about, look, they are going to be at very, very extreme risk. So look, we're really disappointed in and it doesn't seem to really have much logic to it.
Yeah. You also then get the flip side to that was you don't know how you can trust your data because then people start lying because they don't want to tell the truth because they don't want to be cut off. It's a classic example about people on a benefit who are in a de facto, but they have to lie because if they get pointed as a de facto, then they can't afford to live anymore. And like these punitive things these governments do, all governments have done that under Labor as well, that then it causes people to have to be dishonest, and then they get caught out, and then they get pointed to as these guys taking advantage of the system, rather than just starting with how can we help? How can we help? Yeah. And it's more like don't ask for too much help. It's more like that's pretty much what governments have done. And I'm like, we need to change. We need to flip that. How can we help? And go from there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay.
In our data over this last year, I think about 8% or so, we're 18, 19. I need to go back just to get the exact number on that. But look, there was a significant number of our young people, and there is no way that they could have returned to their whānau safely to be able to get access to financial support. And so, look, we're really concerned about it, right? But this is an example of policy being pushed down on communities and on people rather than being built up. And this is what we're seeing a lot, especially with rangatahi policy and tamariki policy at the moment, is that there's a lot of decisions being made up here from a group of society that just have no understanding of what is going on for our kids and our most vulnerable kids, right? Our most structurally marginalized kids. And these policies are doing real harm. What we should be doing as a society is saying, well, who's affected by this? What's the actual problem we're trying to solve? And go to the communities that it affects, have that conversation and build the policy from the ground up. And it's just not happening at the moment.
Aaron, if people want to find out more about work you guys do, are you guys a registered charity? What the work you're trying to do? Yeah, we're a registered charity. I mean, you can find us. We're probably most visible on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us there, Kickback or Kickback Make Change. We also have a website, kickbackmakechange.org. It's a bit old and naff at the moment, but we're updating that. Thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for jumping in and joining in tonight. And appreciate you keeping us informed with the data that you guys are gathering. And we would love to hear from you more. And we appreciate being able to get your story out there to the people who can now pass it on to others. And they tell two people like Weller and so on and so on and so on. So thanks for being with us tonight, dude. Be safe. Have a good Christmas. And
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thanks,
the work.
Cheers.
Right, all the best.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks.
Just very quickly, a couple of chats that have come in, then we'll go say good day to Tanya. Rest in peace, Aaron's internet. Yep. And Gold wants us to know that it's 383 days at most. It's still too long. I mean, just before we jump into Tanya, Chewie, have you got 60 seconds? You got anything you want to recap on from that conversation?
I just want to say, when you're looking at our House of Representatives, think who may have been adjacent to the sort of situation that we're in, and there's almost no one. I'm pretty sure there is no one. So I find it telling that the only party that Aaron mentioned there was the Greens, as far as coming to him and trying to understand the situation and that sort of thing. This seems solvable. This seems like if someone really wanted to fix this, this is something that could be fixed by talking to the frontline people like Aaron and other similar NGOs and that sort of thing, of going, we want to get to a point where there is no long-term youth homelessness, preferably no youth homelessness. What do you need? and we will make it happen. Children living on the streets is something that we should abhor, that we should not allow to exist. The fact that no one's fixing it, and in fact it's getting worse, is a shame on us all.
All right. Thank you, Chewie. I think it's time for us to find out about the update about today about a number of schools who are signing on around their obligations towards Te Tiriti o Waitangi. So let's welcome to the show Tania Waikato. Kia ora, Tania. Welcome to the show.
Kia ora, boys. How are you?
Yeah,
Kia
doing
ora.
all right, actually. I've got a question to ask you about school lunches shortly, but, you know, the whānau are all here for one thing. You watch the numbers viewing will go like this as soon as they find this out, because they're only here for one thing, Tania. And that's to find out.
They'll stay while I'm still on.
Yeah, of course. And that's to find out, are we sending David Seymour a cookie so he can eat his own words or not?
Well, everybody that's watching, you'll be happy to know that it is officially cookie time today. We have 1,525 schools on Te Rārangi Rangatira as of today. And we've also got a huge number of kindies. We've got another 230 kindies on today, and we haven't had time to update the list with the total number of kindies. So our team are working on that as we speak, and trying to busily reformat the document because it's just blowing out to about 90 pages. So we're trying to figure that out. So yeah, big day.
Are you going to release the actual list on your Facebook page tonight or tomorrow or Wednesday? Because I want to have a look, see if my schools have clicked in yet.
Yep, absolutely. I'll be releasing it after this. So you have the exclusive. And once I finish with you guys, I will update the list for today.
That sounds scary, Chewie. Once she finishes with us, it's going to happen. What's going on? Last week after we spoke to you, there seemed to be quite a bit of media attention around it, quite a bit of pushback about the unions, etc., etc. We played you on Te Karere as well. What's the feedback been like from, let's say, the politicians and also the media in the last 7 days?
Yeah, it's been a little bit crazy. The politicians are just carrying on being politicians. Obviously, everybody saw Erica's little rage bait hissy fit that she had in front of the cameras. And there was a fairly interesting and large reaction to that. I saw the post that Willie Jean put up of it, and it got, last time I looked at it, which was a while ago now, it was at 500,000 views. And the one that I put up responding to her is it's over 300,000 views now. So, you know, a little bit of performative politics there from our Minister for Education. And then obviously Sam Uffindale decided to open his mouth and have a little comment, which was basically just echoing what Erica had said, but then he decided to add his own little 5 cents in and say that it was the unions who were doing standover tactics in order to force schools into signing on to Te Rārangi Rangatira. And I watched Chewie's comments about that, and the comment section on that particular post are extremely entertaining. If anyone's, you know, bored and has about 10 minutes on their hands and wants to go and have a good read. And yeah, the response to his comments in particular from Tauranga, because I'm in Tauranga, very interesting. There were a lot of referrals to issues from his past and saying that someone with such a glowing school record should not be talking about standover tactics. So yeah, it's been an interesting week, with the pollies. David Seymour's also decided to come back onto the scene just recently, and I responded to his post this morning. Essentially what he did was pull out some very, he didn't even...
Creative?
Yes, creative. We'll call them creative. It's very interesting statistics, which he says were reflective of the schools on the list, which I think is absolute rubbish for a start. But the second point is also that highly selective nature of the way that he presented those statistics to specifically aim at Māori students. And again, it's just classic David Seymour, Māori bashing, tiriti bashing, and trying to appeal to his voter base, and also to reinforce the line that he has been steadily progressing all term, which is that te tiriti is a bad thing, and te tiriti is something that we should get rid of in every single sphere. And we all know why he's doing it. It's so that he can clear the way for privatisation of every single sector that he can possibly get his hands on for the campaign contributors that basically pay for his existence. So, yes, I pointed all of that out in response to the minister.
So the list that he's got here, busy virtue signalling but failing Maori students. I've just scrolled through, the first 20, and they're all telling him to shut the fuck up, basically. Like, honestly, they're all telling him it's not virtue signalling, it's honouring the thing to do. Got his data from New Zealand Herald, LOL. Fascinating how every time you find a stat you don't like, the answer is never maybe we should resource these schools better. It's always we have tried weakening the treaty again. Then explain why kohanga Māori are our leading schools in all metrics. Goes on and on and on and on and on. I
just want to say too that that's correct. The really annoying thing about that made up statistic rubbish that he's pulled out is that our kura and our kohanga fed schools are the highest achieving. And he's just like a typical what I would call creative math from politicians. They use these percentages and they present them in a very specific way because people who want to believe them will believe them, and they will take them at face value, and they don't care if they're wrong or right. And equally, the actual statistics, they will just completely ignore them. And it's now at the point where the statements that have been made by Minister Stanford and by Sam Uffindale and by David Seymour are really getting to the point of just giving the public false information. And so many people can see that, and it's so blatant now, especially online. The social media, I think, savviness of our general public has increased so much over the course of this year, and that's why you see the comment sections reacting the way that they do, even on their own pages. Like when I saw what happened to Sam Uffindale after he posted that, it actually made me have a bit of a giggle, because this is their attempt to come into our playground, right? Like this is where we have existed for a really long time, and our people know us and they trust us, and they trust us for a reason. You know what I mean? Like we earned that trust. This isn't just, me popping up out of nowhere and all of a sudden going, make a list. People know me because I've been fighting for them since the Treaty Principles came out, then through the Regulatory Standards Bill, then the school lunches petition. So, you know what I mean? It's not as if I've just popped up out of nowhere like Sam Uffindale and decided to open my mouth about something that, people know I care, and people trust what I tell them because I have a track record. Whereas someone like Sam Uffindale, just deciding I'm going to say something today because Tania's in my electorate and maybe she's going to take my seat. I mean, I don't know if that's what he was thinking, but it's a really interesting thing for such a quiet, backbench MP to all of a sudden come out of nowhere and say something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's, I can say hilarious. I don't mean he's amusing. It's like, does he not, he can't get away from his past. Yes, he was 16. Yes, it was this. Yes, it was that. But there's no, we obviously covered that heavily. There's no remorse. There was no remorse at the time. He got a huge dollop of white privilege to walk away from it. If it had been a brown face that did that, it's just, he's not ever going to be anything in politics. The sooner he realizes that and just sits there and takes his cash and, becomes a local body MP, the better, unless someone can unseat him, Tania. Here's a question for you, right? And I sort of know the answer, but I'd like to get your perspective as the smartest person in the room right now. I don't want to ask why are the politicians doing this. In other words, Seymour and those guys, I know that. But what I'm intrigued with is, why is the public responding like this? Why are these schools responding like this? Why has this stored up a hornet's nest of, no, David Seymour, you're wrong, in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, it's because we've been suffering for a really long time under this government. And you've got to understand that, especially as a Māori person and someone who's been fighting all year long and from the end of last year against the very comprehensive campaign that David Seymour has been running against Te Tiriti, we're just sick of it. And so many people have said to me, I get messages all day long from people saying, thank you for what you're doing, because I am sick of what they've been trying to do and we have to stand up to them. And that's what this is. This isn't something that I sort of advocated for and came up with a campaign. We did very deliberate campaigning for the Treaty Principles Bill and for the Regulatory Standards Bill, and we had goals and we had plans. This is totally different. This is something that just sprouted out of what I think is people getting sick of this government not listening to them and not acting in accordance with what they are very clearly telling them. The 160,000 people that made submissions against the Regulatory Standards Bill were pissed when they passed that. I mean, I can't even count the number of messages that I got from people who made submissions and said, I don't understand how this government can still pass that when so many of us said no. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this frustration from a really long period of being ignored and being dictated to, and particularly in the education sector, basically just being steamrolled. And there's only so long you can push people down for. Do you know what I mean? There's only so much that people can take before they go, no, you know what? We're not going to do this anymore.
And it's not just this. It's people are pissed off because they've ridden roughshod over all of these things. Treaty Principles Bill, Regulatory Standards Bill, cancelling smoke-free 20. Like all of these things, just layer upon layer upon layer of things these guys are doing. So I guess that really only now bodes the question is what kind of cookie do we send him? I heard from... No sponsorship here, by the way. # not sponsored. I heard from Mustache and Milk, and they're keen to do it. Also, Chewie, just saying, over the weekend, Tania was like, "I want a cookie too." So yeah, Tania, we'll send you one as well. That's fine. We can do that. We can do
just
that.
Just a point of clarification too, Pat. They're just called Mustache.
Are they? I thought they were Mustache and Milk.
No, it's Mustache, Cookies and Milk.
Oh, okay.
But the actual business is just called Mustache. Sorry, I've followed them. I've followed them since they set up. I'm a big fan.
So I'm going to have to figure it out, because one thing I spoke to them about was the sentence that we wanted to write on it. They were like, we kind of can do 30 characters. Maybe we can get some more on. So I don't know, numbering fewer than 200, maybe just that. That's probably enough. Numbering fewer than 200, and get it off to them. And they're in the House this week. We had someone set up in Auckland to take it to his electorate office, but I think they're back in Parliament this week. So it'll have to go to the Beehive, which would be hilarious. We'll have to get someone in Wellington to deliver it for us and see if they can.
I could probably get someone in Wellington at the Beehive to do that. Probably.
There we go. With a little camera with them, with their little phone on, just so we can see what actually happened. We'll talk about that one.
I'm pretty sure someone watching this will say, "Yep, I'll take it."
Yeah, if they can get in, if they can actually hand it off to them, that'd be great. All right, that's done. I will start organising that tomorrow. Jack wants to know if is he gluten and dairy free? Wouldn't want him to suffer.
Wouldn't want him to get food poisoning like certain schools have experienced with their school lunches, would we?
Well, you're here with us tonight on an interesting night. Chewie, are we okay to move on? Do you want to ask anything else about the original comment?
Okay. Before we do though,
sorry. Yep, go back. No, you didn't see that. No one saw that.
Foreshadow this for potentially tomorrow. There is a very interesting and very illustrious school potentially joining the list tomorrow, which has a direct relationship to Sam Findell and the stories that we were just I will not say the name until I have the letter in my hot little hand.
Tauranga Boys coming on board, are they? Is that what we're talking about? I don't know. Yeah, you can tell us tomorrow. I'm just guessing.
Chewie knows. It's a private school. Yeah.
Okay. Is Auckland Grammar and St Peter's on there yet? Do you know off the top of your head?
No.
St Peter's, come on.
I know. You need to do some follow-up work there.
Yeah, do some follow-up work there. Right. Now, people know you from different kind of campaigns you've been involved with, but different advocacy you've done. One of the ones, obviously, was school lunches. Heavily involved in that. School lunches has kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit in the news, mostly because it seems most of the time it seems to be working okay. But certainly we're not getting the same reports from schools as we once were. However, today, Christchurch School says it was given rancid lunches covered in mould. A Christchurch school is warning parents a, quote, significant health and safety breach, end quote, after it said school lunches it was provided with contaminated. I'm sorry to advise that we had a significant health and safety breach with the school lunches today, and some of the food provided has been contaminated. Basically, they're warning parents that I think some kids might have ingested it all. So a pretty, as you can see, red alert warning there. It has fallen a bit to the wayside, this conversation. Hopefully it's not because it's still as bad as it was and the media's just moved on to the next thing. Are you still involved? Are you still hearing from people? Where are we at with school lunches today, Tania?
Well, the timing of this is actually really interesting because I am about to submit my written submission on the school lunches petition for the Select Committee to consider. And part of my written submission is an Official Information Act request that I received back asking how many complaints and how many injuries had happened as a result of the school lunches. And we got over 900 of complaints and injuries that were reported. And that was only as of June. So that's literally only half the year. And I've been sitting on that since then, waiting for the petition to be put before the Select Committee so that I can put that information in with my written submission. And then lo and behold, so I've got to submit that on Monday, and then this happens. So some really interesting timing in terms of that. The other reason why I think you've probably not heard that much about what's been going on with the school lunches recently is because they very quietly, and I only saw one media story about this, dropped Compass for 2026 and gave it back to a number of the local providers, which is why I got involved in the first place, because it was one of the local providers and my dealings with the switch over to Compass that made me go, this is all wrong and, you know, this shouldn't be happening. So that took place very quietly, and I do think that it was, you know, this government trying to dampen down the outrage that they had been seeing earlier in the year, which led to the petition and all of the other work that we had done around the school lunches. But now we've had, you know, basically this resurgence of another serious health issue caused by the school lunches, and I'm about to put my submission in for the Select Committee. So we shall see in terms of when that actually pushes forward. But the fact that they dropped Compass before we even got the petition to the committee, you know, I'm going to take that as a win. I actually had no hope that they would do anything, and I thought they would just carry on as they were and ignore it. But yeah, I'm taking that as a win for that petition. And there's still so much more that needs to happen with the school lunches. So I'm going to carry on and I'm going to put that submission in. And this just illustrates that, you know, clearly it's not fixed, even though the politicians will say, oh, you know, the OAA that they gave me back, they tried to dress it up and say, well, we were only delivering this many late before, and now we're only delivering this many late now. And, you know, basically trying to do a bit of a whitewash on the statistics. Again, unlucky for them, I actually am really good at maths and sat calculus a year ahead. So they are trying to, I suppose, what I would call do some damage control before election year and try and get this off the plate, because it was such a hot topic. And that's very clear in terms of I would say it's a back down. It's especially for Compass, because Compass was the main issue, and it was the specific thing that I asked for in the petition was to drop them and give it back to the other providers.
Cool, man. One other question for you, and this is completely out of left field for you, and maybe you don't have an answer, and that's fine. You have been in and you're not shy at sharing at voicing an opinion, so I feel comfortable asking you.
I've never been accused of being shy at voicing my opinion. You are correct.
Te Pāti Māori. I know you're not in and around them all the time now, but you have been involved with them in the past, and you've done work for them in the past. You got any thoughts on that you can share? Also, you can, if you can't because of, you know, relationships, that's fine as well. But I want to asking you about it, because we hear over the weekend Tākuta Ferris talking about Labour not running in Māori seats because that would create overhang. That was talked about 6, 10, 12 weeks ago by Bomber first, I think, and then we followed that up, and everyone's like, no, but the way Bomber put it was that could create an overhang that would last 10 years of left wing government. So it's still a conversation going on. Do you got any views or insights that you can share about what's going on there at the moment?
Well, what I can say is that the situation is something that's quite sad in terms of how our people are feeling. And that's something that I hear every single day from people who message me and contact me. There's so many people that don't know what's going on and feel confused and feel very, I suppose, uncertain about the next coming election because they don't know what's going on. So that's clearly something that's affecting a broad range of Māori people at present because of that. The other thing that I can say as well is that I think this idea of you must leave the Māori seats for a certain party, or you must, allow for an overhang to be created. I don't agree with that. And I don't agree that any party owns the Māori seats. And the reason why I say that is because I'm literally inundated with people who are asking questions about who will stand in the Māori electorates, and they are asking questions about what choices do they have? And so many of our people are sick of not having enough choices in their electorates. It's a reason that people switch back to the general roll. And so many people are asking that particular question. They are saying, I'm going to switch back to the general roll if I don't have a choice of candidates in my electorate. So for me, it's the biggest thing that I am sad about is the damage that all of what has happened has done to our confidence in terms of voting, and the damage that it's done in terms of our people, I guess, knowing what they want to do come the next election and feeling confident that they have people that they can vote for come the next election. So the other thing that I think is probably key for the people that ask me this question, and I try and answer it as best as I can, is that when we come to next year and when we are able to have these conversations a little bit more openly, and Labour's already come out and said that they're going to go for all of the seats and they're going to stand candidates in all of the seats and all the rest of it, those conversations need to be had in a very open and honest way. And I am one of those people that, I don't buy into this whole rhetoric of, we must do things in a certain particular way because we've always done them in that way. And I definitely don't buy into this rhetoric of a party owns certain seats. And so for me, I listen to my people. And I have to go home and listen to my people in particular on what I'm going to be doing. And for me, that's the most important thing about all of this for, I guess, people that are struggling with, what happens now, what's everyone going to do, what's the strategic way to use my vote. I got two really beautiful messages today on this topic, actually.
All right.
One from an 85-year-old koro who asked me, and he said, if I use my party vote for the Greens and I use my electorate vote for the Te Pāti Māori candidate, is that all right with you? And I just went, that's the sweetest message. And I said, I don't even know why you're checking with me if that's all right, but that's a very sweet message. And then not long after that, I got one from a 19-year-old, which was giving me a lot of hope, actually. And the 19-year-old said to me, we follow you in our house and we watch what you do and we really admire everything that you do and we're behind you 100%. And I haven't voted before and I'm going to vote for you. And so, things like that, like they get me right here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't take that as something light, to have an 85-year-old and a 19-year-old say to me, I want to vote for you. That's a big deal to me. And, I know there's hundreds of people that say, we want to vote for you and all the rest of it. And I don't take any of it lightly. It's a massive thing. And so many people are saying, I've never voted in my life before, but I'll vote for you. And so for me, that's people have been asking for a long time, how do we get, particularly Māori voters to come to the ballot box? And my answer to that is, we'll give them something worth voting for and give them a vision that they can actually believe in, and they'll come and vote.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the answer of all voting, actually. When people have that stupid argument that, if you don't vote, you can't complain. It's like, no, politicians don't own. You don't have to have someone, but you got to give us something to vote for. That's part of it. But one more question, but you just said vote for you. I don't think on this show we've talked at all about people voting for you. Obviously, it's news that everyone else knows, but do you want to just share anything that we haven't actually said on this show yet about people voting for you, which is what you just said?
I can't actually say anything about that yet, other than I've said several times on my social media that I want to stand at the next election. And so that's why they're responding to. I think I said it, oh God, I had a hissy fit back in June. I think was the first time I said that I was going to stand because I was so angry. And then I've said it one more time since then. And so each time I've said it, there's literally thousands and thousands of people in the comments that have come back and said, I will vote for you. But, they're saying it on all of the posts now, like it's just a regular sort of, come on, you can do it. But yes, when I have something to say that I can say officially, I will definitely come back and say it.
I mean,
you almost got her there, Pat.
That's right.
So close.
That's pretty good. Well, and there's people in the chat like, Bubba, this is all smelling a little green. We can't say anything, but that's what people are saying in the chat. I don't know what's going on.
And I cannot confirm or deny. Yeah. All I can say is watch this space.
Chewie, I, as usual, have monopolised far too much of the time. Do you want to check in with Tania on anything before we let her go?
I just want to jump in and echo. Like I can get where Ferris is coming from, but the first thing that sprung to mind is, why would you want to take choice away from Māori voters? Like, in an ideal world, right, every party would be standing Māori candidates in the Māori seats, right? Because
and that's the
Māori isn't a monolith.
And that's the thing. Like, so many people have this really antiquated idea that all Māori think the same, all Māori vote the same, all Māori, have this just, monotone political appetite that is only satisfied by one thing. And that's just so far from the truth. And I know that because I am a Māori, and I've got people that are all along the spectrum in my life that vote for all different parties in my life. And I know people that refuse to go on the Māori roll because they don't want to just have a choice between one or two different parties to vote for. So, I agree with you. I think in an ideal world, they would have choice, maybe not the ACT Party, but at least they would have, a variety of good candidates, I think, is the thing that I would like to see for all of our seats.
Because the benefit there would be have the view, a more Māori view from every spectrum of our parliament. Just more representation has got to be good. I don't like this idea where only the left is talking about valuing things that are important to Māori, and the right is like, no, fuck them. No, we're all the same. That's good, right? We're all the same. We're all going to do things the European way, and that's the way that we're going.
And that's one of the unfortunate things about what's happened to the National Party, because the National Party actually used to have some really good Māori MPs in it. And it used to have some really strong ideas around Māori policy when they had, really good Māori MPs in there. And it's just unfortunately been pushed further and further towards the far right. And I think that's a direct consequence, and not only of ACT and David Seymour, but also who's funding, the current political campaigns, and also Christopher Luxon's, pretty lackluster leadership as well. So I think, the National Party of old, I had a lot of respect for them. I would never have voted for them, but I had a lot of respect for them. And that's why, I'm friends with Chris Finlayson, which, I find ironic. But there's so many things that I agree with Chris on, and it just goes to show for me how far to the right the current National Party has swung. And I guess when we were under, and first past the post, for a long time, people were like, we need change, we need MMP, we need da 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 da. But what I do miss about first past the post was that we had a lot more stability in terms of both of the parties were far more centric than what we have now. And National in particular has just gone way over to the right. I think even arguably Labour has gone more to the right than it potentially would have been previously. And that's just a reflection of, I guess, what they see happening across the political spectrum. So, the left's got a big job to do in this upcoming election, but I really do think that with a clear vision and some, I suppose, good campaigning and sticking to the big issues and the issues that really matter to New Zealanders, and cost of living's got to be number one on that list, followed very quickly by making sure that our economy is actually working and not getting tanked deliberately by this government. If we can stick to those really core issues, then I think the left's got a good shot.
Hey, Tania, it's always a pleasure. Looking forward to the possibly could be maybe announcement that not too distant future, if it happens, maybe possibly could be, and coming back on and talking to us about it. And then maybe we can start to plan one of our election debates for Tauranga, Chewie? just for fun.
Well, I can't say where that would be either. But, I take it as a compliment that, Sam Uffindell sitting MP in the bluest electorate that you could possibly find, potentially sees me as a threat to his seat. And to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about his seat at all. But, all of these politicians who are having a swipe at me, I'm not even a politician yet, and they're already scared. So, I take all of that as a compliment. People message me constantly and say, oh, you must be so upset that, so-and-so said this about you. And I just say, no, I'm not upset at all. Because if they're scared now, wait until I really get into the ring, and then I'll give you something to be scared about.
Chewie has suggested less than 200, mostly small schools, 37 character count. There you go. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll be...
Brilliant.
I'll be in touch in the next 24 hours about delivery, Tania. Thank you for coming on again tonight and hanging out with us. And shit, bro, 2000's just around the corner, isn't it?
Well, I think this 2000 is going to be a really interesting one if we get there, because I know the schools that are left. And so, I think every day is going to be an interesting day as to who comes on the list. So looking forward to it. Thank you for having me. Pleasure as always.
No, doing great work.
Tania.
Thank you for being a part of us, and we'll talk to you super soon, eh?
All right. Thank you.
Right. Catch you, Tania.
Bye.
Whew, 2000,
so I have
just around the corner.
I have two thoughts.
Only two?
Not at the same time either. They have to be very much by themselves. Imagine a sort of election debate between Tania and Sam Uffindell where they have to do pull-ups between answering the questions. And then when Tania is very clearly in the house, just imagine her doing debates, just doing bicep curls, waiting to answer her turn to flame the government.
Yes. I'm down for that. Was that both separate points? Were that both points? You got
that was both thoughts. Just both really focused on how Tania is an absolute gym monster and would make a meal out of everybody. So good.
I was just looking actually.
God, what a force of nature!
There we go.
She's unstoppable.
Hey, you scared yet? You scared yet? You scared yet?
We need to find out how much Sam Uffindell weighs.
You're looking for a well, there's 45, pretty easy. We're looking for a pull up, aren't we? Here we go. There you go. Look out. Look out.
Yeah.
Look out. Sun's out, guns out. And out rolls. All right, Whānau. There's a few chats in there as well, and then we'll get into our last story of the. There was actually another story that I don't think we'll cover tonight because I think it might be worth actually delving into a bit more deeply, and that's this idea that they're putting a 4% rates cap on local body councils. I think it deserves a bit more time than this wasn't in our notes at the start of the night. So let's just look at it anyway, because obviously, and the example we always use is Gore. Gore needs $300 million to fix their pipes infrastructure. You know, that whole Three Waters thing? And 4% per year is not going to do it. So in other words, if this comes into as law, then Gore's going backwards at 1 million miles an hour. And we only talk about them because they're local-ish to us. That'll be replicated dozens of times around the country. That if you have a system that has not been spent, has been underspent for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, to all of a sudden go, they're going to stay within their means, whilst this government is borrowing to keep the lights on. Remember that. This government is not staying within its means. It's borrowing money. The Treasury said this in October. It's borrowing money to keep the lights on. So they're not staying within their means, but they're now saying councils have to stay within their means, and in doing so continue to travel backwards because more than 4% needs to be put into many councils' own infrastructure. And I breathe. Chewie, sorry, you want to say something before we... We'll do this again. We'll do this tomorrow. We'll do this tomorrow properly as well.
When we're looking at it, there was one comment that I saw that said that even if they do cap rates, there is a carve-out for water. So the comment that saw that was like, what do you think is paying for the water?
It's just it's ridiculous.
It's dumb. It's dumb. It's knee-jerk stuff. It is to appease a lobby, a right-wing farmers lobby from people that just go, I don't like my rates bill. I don't want to look into it and understand it, but I don't like it.
And it's also for those people, to quote Mr Luxon, who are wealthy and sorted. I can fix up the pipes in my property. I'm okay. You know, you can't. Well, I'm not paying any more. I'm not paying any more to help you. This goes back to that conversation with Aaron earlier. You know, we should be going, how can we help? Not you're being helped too much. How can we help? That's how you build a society that flourishes and thrives. Flourishes. Makes my words there. Flourishes and thrives. But this government and many councils operate on you've asked for too much, as opposed to going, how can I help? All right, a couple of texts that have been sitting in there. Treknut says, in my opinion, David Seymour just SUX. Laura says, send Seymour chocolate chip, spotted cookie. Today's show brought to you by the letters F, D, and S. I see what you did there. I see what you're doing there. Okay, let's get into this last story. And I did say it, and I'll say it again. If what appears to be the case is the case, Mr Luxon pulled a bit of a gangster move over the last week or so that nobody knew about. I'll give you the lowdown.
This particular potential description of Luxon has not gone down well on Reddit.
Oh, good.
I really want to see you're working on this.
Well, that's fine. You can see it. I'll feed you baby birds. Just stay there. And remember, it does imply if he's done something. If it's fallen into it accidentally, then it's stumble bumble, Mr. Luxon, as per usual. If it's a plan, it's pretty gangster. Right. On Reddit. What are they doing on Reddit? It's watching us live. Hi, Reddit. Front page of the internet.
Because I posted on Reddit.
Oh, good. Thanks. Glad we got you on board. So, the announcement over the weekend, we haven't really talked much about the Labour Party conference. Really interesting plan, actually, that Labour will give low-interest loans to doctors and, I think, registered nurses to be able to invest. Jesus, are we keeping you up? Would you like to go?
Was that a headline from their conference, was it?
Sheesh. Interesting idea, though, and there has been some positive feedback about this idea of helping doctors get into practice by low-interest loans. It also talks about helping them get into rural areas for that. So this first commentary from this morning is basically Christopher Luxon responding to that. And I guess he's probably going to respond pretty much just like what Chewie did.
And yesterday, Labor announced another promise, giving GPs and nurse practitioners low-interest loans to set up new practices or buy into existing ones. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon is with us now. Good morning, Prime Minister.
Morning, Chris. Good to be with you.
Good to have you here. So Labor had their big moment yesterday. Chris Hipkins was full of beans. He said the government has derailed the country and that one term is all your coalition will get. What do you want to tell voters?
Well, I think it's pretty clear what Labor's all about. They're going to tax you more, they're going to borrow more, and they're going to spend more. A lot of it's going to...
Chris Chang does pretty good here, does one pretty good thing, because often they don't push back. And Luxon's, he's got like a tick at the moment where he goes, everyone's going to be paying 28% capital gains tax, which is not the policy, right? It's on from a certain date, money made above that. And good on Chris Chang in this interview. He did push back, but Luxon stays the course, and he stays the false narrative about just 28%, 28%, which is not the full picture.
to be on wasteful spending, and he's already admitted that's the plan. That's the plan that got us into such a mess that we've been cleaning up. And yes, we've had a big job to do over the last 2 years of fixing the basics, but we're also wanting to focus on building the future for New Zealand, so we set this country up for an awesome future.
This plan from them about GPs and nurse practitioners seems to have had quite good buy-in, doesn't it? Royal College of GPs said it would remove barriers and encourage more people to become doctors. General Practice Owner Association gave the tick of approval. Simeon Brown didn't smack it down. That feels like a win for Labor.
Well, I'll just say it's a bit, I've had a quick look at it. It seems a bit confusing because on the one hand, they want to give low interest rates to GPs, but on the other hand, they want to slug them with a 28% capital gains tax.
Yeah, so there you go. So just got the rote out there, want to slam them with that. And then about a minute later, Chris Chang pushed back a little bit. Like, what are you talking about this this blanket, across the board capital gains tax? You
mentioned capital gains taxes. How is that going to affect things for them?
Well, if you're in a commercial building as a GP or any business for that matter, you're going to get slugged with a capital gains tax. So, The
other thing is the word slug is coming out a lot. Like he says it 3 times in this interview. That's obviously part of their 9th floor PR press conference, right? You should use the word slug. You should use the word slug because he says it a lot. Slug with a 20. I don't quite know what it means, but he's using it lots at the moment.
As a GP or any business for that matter, you're going to get slugged with a capital gains tax. So, you may be a GP selling your practice, as many of them will be retiring in the next decade, and they're going to be hit with a 28% capital gains tax on that commercial building that they...
With the caveat, profits made beyond a date in about 3 years from now. So he's leaving a big part of it out. That
they rent that they use as their premises. So, anyone who's in a commercial building, any business, every business is going to get hit with it.
It's more about getting people into actually their own practices, though, isn't it? And actually giving them more of an incentive to...
Well, our biggest issue is actually workforce and making sure that we can really power up that workforce. And that's what we've been doing. We've put 2,100 extra nurses into Health New Zealand, 600 extra doctors into Health New Zealand. But in the primary care space, out there in the community, that's where we also need to put big efforts. And that's why we're putting big focus on nurse prescribers, nurse practitioners, and GP places as well. Right.
Yeah, I've got, for basically that's it to do with his reaction to capital gains. But this is going to be the narrative, people, and you need to push back against it if you see it, right? It's not 28% on businesses. It's not 28% on building. It's not 28. It's 28% on profits made after, I think it's July 2027 or 2028. So someone who sells their practice in the next 10 years, he said, so they've been a doctor for 40 years. So they bought their doctor's surgery for $8 in 1978, and now they're going to sell it for $6 million. But between the date that the rule comes in and the date they sell it, they make $500K. So they're going to pay 28% on that $500K, not on the full selling price, which is the narrative he's trying to put out there. What's the whole National Party and ACT and New Zealand First will put that narrative out there. I know you all know this, right? But we're just making sure that when it comes up in general conversation, you can go, no, 2027, thanks, B. It's only on gains beyond this date. So if any of these so-called doctors sell in the next 18 months, then they pay nothing because it's not in place yet. Chewie?
Oh, Luxon. Look, as much as I think this... Like my main criticism of this policy from Labor is that it's been shouted out like it's the fucking headline of their conference, and it's not a winner. Like, it might be good policy. It might help a particular problem. But it is not, holy shit, I'm voting for Labour. This is amazing. This is fiddling on the edges. Like, we have a big problem with GPs. A lot of them are old. A lot of them are retiring. A lot of them are finding it tough. We're not retaining the doctors that end up being GPs. So yeah, a low interest loan to buy into a practice or to set up your own practice, sure. What we need is more GPs.
Yeah.
And Luxon, in all of the words that he flung into the ceiling fan, barely had a coherent thought through that entire interview about how he would solve this problem that they should both agree is a thing that they need to worry about. Like, it's completely non-serious.
And like, we can use evidence to what this government does when it says they're going to hit a certain target. Can I present to you police numbers, please, when they say 500 new police officers and they don't hit their target? So we will now have to see when they say it's going to be this many new, I think they're talking 100 new places in Otago. Now you need to actually follow through and get those 100 new places up and running like you haven't done to the police numbers you promised. Let's go on to this next bit. Now, this is the potential people. I don't know if people are angry with me, but potential gangster move. We'll see. So many people saw this over the weekend. Andrea Vance, the anatomy of National's failed coup. Chris Chang touches on it very, very gently. I watched Luxon on Hosking this morning as well. And all it was from both of them was, the media covering a news story that wasn't even a news story. Never addressed it. Chris Chang touches on it very, very gently about ministers who might not be getting a good boy present this year.
You've only got a couple more weeks before you finish up for the year. So I wanted to ask you, are any ministers on the Christmas naughty list this year? None of your ministers vying for the top job, are they?
No. They're all...
As a, just quietly, Mr. Luxon.
No's?
Yeah.
No.
When Shakespeare says, "Methink the lady protesteth too much," this after you go past the third no, you are fulfilling that criteria.
Are any ministers on the Christmas naughty list this year? None of your ministers vying for the top job, are they?
No. They're all doing a great job. I'm telling you, we've got some incredible ministers doing a great job, working incredibly hard.
Is it you that's done the great job, though, by outmanoeuvring here?
I'd love to.
Can you... Let's hear that statement again, because it is every grab bag, nothing word that he loves to throw around. They're all incredibly capable. They're all working incredibly hard. Blah, 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 blah. Nothing. There's nothing in those words. They mean nothing. Let's hear it again. In
this clip as well, he's going to say his job is to be the CEO. He literally says it.
Fuck's sake.
We'll see.
Vying for the top job, are they?
No. They're all doing a great job. I'm telling you, we've got some incredible ministers doing a great job, working incredibly hard.
Is it great job, incredibly hard?
Credible ministers, great job, incredibly hard.
Everything. You would say that about someone that ran and got your fucking coffee order. Like, it's just nothing. Everybody's working incredibly hard. You're working incredibly hard. You're laser focused on the cost of living. It all means nothing. Taking the value away from all of those words. You've ruined them.
Is it you that's done the great job, though, by outmanoeuvring here with that Kiwisaver pledge? Do you think that's the thing that's sort of quelled the noise here?
No. I think, generally I've got my job as Prime Minister is essentially to act as a CEO, make sure I put the right people on the right assignments at the right time. I think you could look across the piece of what we've been achieving, whether it's in the law and order space, whether it's in what we're doing around infrastructure, what we're doing around education, healthcare. We've got really hard-working ministers doing an incredible job. My job is to get the right person on the task.
Incredible job.
The right person on the job, really? How should we go over things like Melissa Lee? Are there others we'd like to put out there? Bank teller running the health system, English graduate running finance, so the best people. Didn't Luxon say so? I am paraphrasing now. Say something like Nicola Willis is the best there will ever be when it comes to finance ministers. The other day, something along those lines. You're going to say?
Oh, let's say you've got a police minister who said he'd resign if he didn't get 500 new cops. They've blasted through that, and the only thing that he has had to fucking field is an absolute disaster scandal at the head of police. And like, if you want to talk about what you're doing in the law and order space, I don't even think I'm exaggerating about this, but in the last 2 weeks alone, ram raids in Canterbury have gone up something like fucking 9,000%. There was a dairy that got robbed 3 times in 2 days.
There it is.
Like, you've been crowing about ram raids going down now for fucking almost a year.
Best finance minister New Zealand's ever going to have. That's what Luxon
depressing.
thinks. That's what Luxon thinks of Nicola Willis. Right, we'll keep going.
Be really clear with them what I expect them to deliver and then back them up
Really
to go get it done.
Okay, so you're confident no one else is after that CEO job then?
Absolutely confident.
Right. Now, let's go back to Andrea Vance. Now, I'm reliably informed that Andrea Vance is incredibly well sourced, especially when it comes to the Wellington kind of gossip net of what's going on in politics. The Anatomy of National's failed coup. I'm surprised this hasn't had more coverage. Let me read you a little bit. It talks about, no concerns, says Luxon. Every political coup, real or whispered, follows a predictable arc. Andrea goes through what the arc is. And we come to part of the story where it says this. 2 things happened in quick succession late that afternoon. Media received a sudden advisory that Luxon would, unusually, attend a regional gathering of National Party members in Upper Hutt, right? Wasn't expected to be there. Well, just bear with me. Wasn't expected to be there, but decided to go. Then the Praetorian Guard was stood up, and the Praetorian Guard was stood up, and the weekend briefing began. Political columns dutifully dismissed the rumours as just talk. This is rumours of the challenge. With no solid or real change behind them, Nicola Willis' voice was unmistakable in backgrounding. Upper Hutt is Chris Bishop's territory. And that was the point. Luxon fronted with National's first substantive policy for next year's election campaign. It would see employers required to match workers. It's the Kiwisaver. Willis introduced Luxon, a speech full and over, cranked praise, and then stood beside him at the stand-up selling the policy doorstep. So there are some people who are saying that this was a move by Luxon and his team to put Bishop in his place. The challenge had happened, and Luxon's gone, really? Well, I'm giving Luxon lots of credit here. Let's say someone within the ninth floor has gone, really? Well, how about I come to your neighbourhood, make you stand behind me while I release this big policy? And if that is actually a planned manoeuvre by Luxon to basically diminish Bishop in his own area, in an event he wasn't needed for or supposed to go for, it's a pretty gangster move. It's a pretty gangster move to basically go, listen, boy, you stay in your place. I'm going to stand on your ground and I'm going to sell this first policy, and you can just watch from the background where you deserve to be.
So here's my pushback on this, man. You described it as gangster.
Yeah.
And he was in Lower Hutt. He was in the hut.
Yeah.
So were there police there to confiscate his gang patch?
Well, a national
Can we
badge.
really be sure it's gang related gangster activity if he's not flashing up signs? We haven't seen any in the footage. So yeah. I think what was telling in this story was it didn't sound like a whole bunch of people going, no, I'm loyal to the leader. Luxon's the man. It sounded like a whole lot of people didn't want to play their cards yet.
Well, the other thing is, the other rumour going around Wellington at the moment, it was actually Luxon's office who leaked. This is just a rumour. Luxon's office who leaked this stuff to Andrea Vance. So that's another thing. It's like going, really? Really? So you've failed at your bid. Why don't we tell the press about that and see how it goes for you? Like
I one of the things that I always talk about Erica Stanford, your favourite.
was. less and less as the days go. Well, less and less as the days go on.
You hear that, Erica? You have lost the patio. It's over. Look, we talked about her greatest political coup, I guess, was letting David Seymour front foot all the bad shit.
Yeah.
And she's
keep her
lost
hands
that
clean. Yeah.
But it sounded like she didn't want to go in on Bishop's coup because it was Bishop's coup.
Do you want
she
to?
thought that being a number 2 to Bishop would hurt her chances in the future.
There's a lot of things going on. They're talking about the more, now I'm air quotes, but the more progressive members of the National Party and the more conservative members, and apparently Stanford and Bishop are considered the more progressive, which means they can't be a 1-2, that the party wouldn't put up with that. And just on this note, I'm just going to read something else from this article because it gives a bit more information about what you're talking about. So talking about the coup, the old-time heavyweights weren't behind Bishop either. Paul Goldsmith and Judith Collins owe their career revivals to Luxon, and were understandably reluctant to risk a reshuffle that could unsettle their standing. Mark Mitchell, still nursing leadership hopes after multiple failed attempts, was reluctant to line up behind Bishop. I might as well go to the end of this, No one credits Luxon with much political instinct, but this time he cleanly outmaneuvered Bishop, who is often seen as Parliament's most nakedly political creature. Oh, naked Chris Bishop. By Tuesday, sitting at a press conference to unveil a major overhaul of local government, Bishop was left doing the humiliating work of denial, insisting he was definitely not plotting to roll Luxon and repeating that his boss was doing a fantastic, outstanding, wonderful job. But this doesn't mean the story is over. Luxon may have won the week, but he still hasn't solved the underlying problem. His corporate uplift just isn't connecting with voters. And you just heard it in that piece that we played for you. He actively chooses to describe himself as a CEO role. So it's not even that we're reading it wrong. We're reading it correctly. We're reading it as a corporate job for him because he's describing it that way. So we believe
absolutely banana stuff. Like that was premature for the quick readers there. Yeah, look, I don't think this, as I said, I don't think this sounds like a party that is united before an incredible leader.
Yeah.
I think this is a party with a front bench full of people who want the top job, who just don't think the time is right yet. That they're being fucking strategic for it, or they're waiting for the right person to move at the right time. And we've talked about this, the absolute dearth of talent in the front bench of National. There's not a charismatic leader in there. Like when they're talking about Mark Mitchell has hopes for leadership, I think that's actually a typo. I think what that was originally written there was Mark Mitchell couldn't be reached for comment because he's finishing his yogurt.
I mean,
Look at
saw
this.
I saw the other day there was a poll and it had Erica, Luxon, Bishop, and Nicola Willis. And Nicola Willis was on about 4%. So, like, I mean, hands up, right? Before the election, she seemed to have some kind of nous about her. And you kind of go, oh, she's maneuvering interestingly here. Since the election, she's just been like worse. And to be fair, not that you will be when I say this, Chewie, Erica Stanford had some political nous about her earlier on, like you said, keeping her hands dirty around the schooling stuff. But since then, it's just been down, worse. And then like her Karen meltdown over Tania is sort of that's her place now. Like that's who she is now. How dare they? These people are being forced. How dare they? Can I speak to the manager, please? That's her vibe now. And so she's gone down as well. So actually out of that group, it probably, and I said publicly that Erica Stanford will be the next leader. I think out of this group, it's Chris Bishop. I mean, it's Chris Bishop. Maybe Paul Goldsmith, but see, he's like watching paint dry. You know, I don't know.
Like, Judith Collins had her tilt at leadership and everybody hated her. And and I feel like she's sort of gone back and gone, well, you think you hated me more than anybody else, but you clearly hate Luxon more now. I mean, oh, what a parade of just mediocre people.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually. It's really interesting. I'm just looking through, obviously, as we're doing it. I mean, you know, it's just there's not much there, is there? I mean, you're not going to get a leader whose name.
Melanin, I'll tell you that much.
There's a lot of scalp, though. The proportion of bald heads to hair, like they're everywhere.
Can we just have a citizens-initiated referendum that there can no longer be any politician called Chris?
Okay.
We've had enough Chris's, or at least have a bag limit of Chris's at the same time.
A quota.
Yeah, quota of
system.
Chris's.
All right.
Every party is allowed one Chris at a time, and no two Chris's can run against each other for the same job.
And one David Seymour. Wasn't there two David Seymours at one stage?
There were two David Seymours in the ACT Party. There isn't. I don't think there is anymore. And there's a funny joke, but it wasn't.
There's another one that's got a surname like Luxon as well, isn't it? There's someone who's got a very similar name to Luxon.
Oh,
Luxton
with a T, which is how everybody mispronounces Luxon's name anyway. So it's just great.
We touched on... Our government does what? And James Black says Luxon rolling with the gangsters, white and nerdy. Yeah, that's probably fair. Weird Al.
God, we didn't even touch on it because there was so much news. But did you see last week that they ran an AI generated ad about their gang patch law?
No.
They've pulled it now because they got absolutely dunked on by everybody that saw it. But it was a wholly AI generated ad about how their gang patch law was great, and it had AI generated police taking AI generated patches off AI generated mongrel mob members. It was laughable. It was the most, like, I know national social media team are laughable anyway, but this was particularly egregious. Hey, since we touched on the Labour conference this weekend, do you want to put up my window there that you've given a sneak preview there? I just want. Oh, it's still up there. Yeah, look at it. Look at it. Terrible. Oh, I guess gang patches and gangs are gone now.
Aren't gang numbers up?
Shush.
Gang numbers are up.
Is what social media says. Shush. You're a hater.
Shush.
You're a hater, Pat.
Shush.
So I put this up on Blue Sky after watching a thing about the Labour conference, and I think it just, I'm going to read it out for the audio guys. Now, I freely admit that I'm probably not Labour's target demo. But if their answer to a single term of the fastest dismantling of progress that we have ever seen in this country is steady now, we can't move too quickly, we can't fix everything, temper your expectations. Now, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but not that much, because they did say we can't say yes to everything. I am not confident. That's from the major left bloc party. The coalition of chaos has swung for the fences, disregarded all criticism, and plain just got on with implementing their vision. Experts, fuck them. Public opinion, ain't got time for it. Damn the torpedoes, start smashing out the foundation. The left bloc needs to bring that same energy to fix it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good post, Chewie. It's very true as well. And also, I mean, the thing we don't know, the whole kind of experts, fucking public opinion, ain't got no time for it. We don't know this, but I'm guessing that ACT and New Zealand First had a pretty big influence on doing that, because basically Luxon sold his soul for a handful of beans to be Prime Minister. So the other way to think about this is, you know, I'm saying to Pāti Māori with some sort of hope there, let's say Māori seats Greens might have to do the same thing to swing for the fences the other way. It might be up to them, because I don't know if National would have swung for the fences, let's say, if they had been a majority party, which won't happen. You know what I mean, though?
No.
So is it the minor parties dragging them?
Because, I mean, Key's government was definitely heavily influenced by public opinion. And New Zealand First and ACT have never given a shit about negative press. It's all press. Like, they're talking to their very niche guys that are like, yes, ramp this up. The more unhinged, the better. I'm here for it. My brainworms require this. And the difference is that under Luxon, they don't have the negotiating power or the strength to push back on this sort of thing. And I would have hoped that the message that would have sunk through to Labour is like, we can use our coalition partners to front the stronger policy that, to be honest, we'd like to put out there, but we're too scared of losing the middle. We'll let them push the window, or just do it. Like, if there's anything that's been illustrated by this last term of government, it's slow and steady is not the only pace. And if they want to return to slow and steady, as much as I would prefer as a citizen of this country for things to be a little less dramatic, if they don't learn the lesson of why they lost last time, of not being bold enough with a mandate, that they're at risk of doing it again. They need to fix the damage and make things better before they lose another election.
Yeah. No, I think wise words. And it's really fascinating to think about, will anyone, especially within Labour, because I think, the Greens and Te Pāti Māori / Māori seats are already there. And I mean, do we have concerns around Chewie going, well, I'm sorry, there's not going to be any other changes to any other tax because I say so, and we're not going to bend the will? Or is that just pre-election politicking, which is fine. There's no criticism for that, because that's the game they're playing. I mean, like, there was that ridiculous conversation with Tova last week where she was basically going, you mean you would rather sit in opposition benches than have Winston Peters be Prime Minister? It's like,
She's still hammering that point, by the way.
Yeah. Mate,
her latest story is that if Chippy's not speaking to Winston, some people are. And that's Penny Hanare, because he's the foreign affairs spokesperson. Of course he's speaking to like, it's crazy. She is not going to let go of that bone.
Yeah, well, she's wrong. And I guess there is a take 10 miles back from that line in the sand and go sitting in opposition benches because you refuse to talk about a, wealth tax with the Greens. That feels too much of a hard line. Winston Peters, Prime Minister, feels an appropriate hard line. And where is the actual negotiable line within that thing? I don't know. I guess we have to wait and see. That's even if they're in a place to vote, to form a government. Sorry, Stu?
I'm also going to read a comment here because it's come through a Twitch, which I can't put up.
I can.
Chewie, the trouble with moving that fast and breaking things is that's how the economy fell over. Labour will be reluctant to risk stability doing the reverse. And I agree with that point. But if they don't undo this, that has been undone so rapidly, the more it sets in, the harder it is to take out. And if you are seen, as I think the last Labour government were seen as, just not doing much with what we gave them, and they go into, say they win the next election, and that's where they are again, not being brave enough, not reversing everything. Like, I don't want the New Zealand political sphere to be rapid changes of left and right. We're better off if the governments kind of agree that we need to build houses and kind of agree genuinely what we have to do with transport and healthcare and all of that sort of stuff. And then there's little movements, these big dramatic movements of, we're going to sell all the hospitals. Yeah. We're going to privatize all the schools. No, we're going to give everybody full communism. it's not good for us. But if one government comes in and goes, we're going to be slow, considered, and stable, is too slow, gets voted out before they fix everything, they're just pushing that window anyway. So I guess this is the thing. Labor, like I said, I don't think I'm the demo. Like, Labor are too stable, too in the middle for me at this point. And it frustrates me because here at BHN, more than anyone, we know that Labor has some great progressive candidates, some that have just started there, and we 100% agree with what they want to get done. But then when we want their energy to be shown, like after they have a big conference, we don't see it. And I guess that's the thing that made me do that post.
Yeah, it was a good post as well. All right, let's get to the end of the show by saying in 2020 and 2023, Rimutaka, Chris Norton and Chris Hipkins ran for the seat. We also have Joe Luxon in Rangitata and Cameron Luxon from Tauranga. There you go. E. Grant Wright says Labor needs fewer working groups and just needs to get shit done. Sorry, it just sounds like I should have a beat behind that thing.
I'm just going to highlight this. Oh, I can't. I was going to highlight this comment because it so rarely happens on this show. Mealworms for you says, you're talking crap, Chewie.
Oh.
All right. Thanks for your comment. There we go.
There you go.
I've been told off by an AI chicken.
Is that a chicken? Oh, yeah. Mealworms, of course. Mealworms. All right, whānau, we're about done for another day. Just a bit of a reminder that we have merch and stuff available. We've only got a couple of things up there now that are new ones. There is an availability for you to contribute towards the Christmas party, which is this Saturday night. And also, I just wanted to remind everybody, if you were interested in getting anything for Christmas, I would be horrified to think that you wanted something for Christmas and it didn't get to you in time. We're not going to cut off anyone. We're not going to say, not taking any orders after this week. But actually, if you want to make sure you get the stuff for Christmas, you should really get in this week. All the hoodies, all the tees are all there, all good to go. There is a way to get yourself a second hoodie or tee or a second item at half price. You also can get some free enamel pins. All the details are up there. And I believe there might be a couple left. There is a way to get free delivery. I'm not sure. Yeah, there is definitely a couple left. So if you go one of 20 during checkout, you'll get free delivery as well. So get a t-shirt or a hoodie. Get the second t-shirt or hoodie for half price. Get some free enamel pins while you do it. There they all are. And free delivery. And if you get it done this week, other than like if there was a New Zealand Post breakdown, I sort of guarantee you'll have it by Christmas time. Sorry, I heard a breath in, Chewie.
This is probably a discussion that could happen offline, but it's happening now. I did see a request, I think it was on Blue Sky, someone was asking if we could sell rolls of the stickers.
We could.
Like if someone wanted to absolutely bomb out their town or a local electorate office with a sticker of their choosing.
We certainly had at one stage, you could get 50 packs. So you get, and they're down to $3 each if you get a 50 pack where one sticker is $5. Also, we're going to take a little bit of merch along with us on Friday night. Just a reminder for people about the live event on Friday night and the meetup beforehand. Gary Payinda, Craig Rennie and the Mayor of Dunedin, Sophie Barker, are all speaking. Adju Cafe, 333 George Street, Dunedin. The event, the public event, is 6:30 till 8. If you are a friend of mine or Chewie's, i.e. would like to do a podcast meetup, then that starts at 5:30. So you can come along
that's
at
5:30.
Yeah, if you want to. We're going to have dinner there. So, come and eat if you're going to come along at 5:30.
Bucket of porridge.
Yep, big bucket of porridge is what Chewie's going to get, but that's what we're doing. So another thing about the merch, if you're looking for Christmas, we're still fine with oversize. Oversize are 4X, 5X, and 7X. but you do need to contact us directly, which is just the email address is mail@bhn.nz. Mail, M-A-I-L, @bhn.nz. If you email us directly, then we can do bigger sizes in some limited ranges. They don't have all the same colours, but we've got most of the ranges. There's 3 or 4 or 5 colours, but we can do everything on them. mail@bhn.nz. All right, really looking forward to Friday night, actually. It's going to be fun. I spoke to Anne today from the New Zealand Nurses Organisation, because they're sort of pushing the public meeting. That's a part of it for them. And then, of course, if you're in Dunedin, well, should we tell people we're going to be? If you're in Dunedin, we're going to be at the markets on Saturday morning. That's not really an event. It's fun to take people from outside of Dunedin to the markets. And then we're having our party on Saturday night, and people are pissing off on Sunday, most people. And that's about it.
It's always interesting when you mention Anne from the Nurses Union and pushing, because she does not let me forget the fact that I almost resulted in her getting run over by Simeon Brown's car. We used her as a human shield.
All right, Whānau. Lovely to be with you again tonight. More going on. This week's going to be a bit crazy busy for us, because obviously me and Chewie are planning for a massive event on Friday night and a big party on Saturday night. So if we're lacking or we've got fewer clips and stuff this week than we normally do, be gracious, because we're doing this. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun week, and we look forward to having you guys with us for the whole week. It's going to be a blast. Alrighty, mighty. Let's rip into it.
Trump dance.
Help us settle it to be.
Yeah.
Whether it be thoughtful.
Like you're masturbating 2 penises either side of your ear.
Feel really.
For better, push aside the temptation to
No.
Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy. Knowing all the things that we need to
That's my favourite message ever. Okay.
have the hand out for rewards.
Fight me.
While the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention. Or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts. Vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats. And picking and choosing a warpath to run. And linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe. With an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that. And we'll be analyzed by what Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head. And you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
All right, team. I guess we'll catch you tomorrow night. Anything to wrap up with, Chewie? Anything you want to share?
I'm also looking forward to Friday.
I thought we were supposed to
That's
have
good.
conflict. Were we supposed to have
No,
conflict?
we're on the
That
same
team
page on this.
make a good
No.
team. You fight each other.
We've got conflict in you calling Christopher Luxon gangster.
I didn't call him a gangster. I said it was a gangster move. Anybody else, if you sat them behind you and basically pissed on their territory, that would be called that. Come on, be honest. Be honest.
No, I'm not
All
going to
right.
let you have it.
All right. Catch you tomorrow night from 9 Whānau for our next edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo.
Cheers, man.